Should I start?
Yeah,
okay.
Whenever you're ready.
I think my greatest achievement actually is to be able to sustain a good living from doing what I absolutely love, from sharing my most inspired moments, from creating content about related to that which most moves me, and then, yeah, it's just great. I guess I just kind of living my bliss.
I am sitting here, I self-selected on this. This guy right here, you may not know him, or maybe you do know him. I don't know. I'm just meeting him for the first time. Jason Silva, who has a television show on National Geographic, right? Called Brain Games. Tell me about this show.
So Brain Games is basically a pop science series about the brain that uses these kind of perceptual experiments, these interactive experiments, and cognitive hacks. And that serves as a good hook for then people to pay attention and be like, okay, so explain to me how this works. You know, like, I remember one of the episodes we were talking about the fact that like we actually don't directly experience a 3D reality. We actually, through our eyes, can only see low-res 2D images, flat, low-res images coming through our eyes, and then our brain kind of renders a 3D world that's very much an inference or a kind of a construct, an estimation. So little things like that you learn that are kind of amazing.
Now, for you, where did you come from?
Yeah, exactly.
Who are you?
I grew up in Venezuela. That's where I was born. I double majored in philosophy and film. So I started doing a series of shorts on the web that I call Shots of Philosophical Espresso. Psychedelic art films about the future is a good summary. So those films, they went viral on the web, and like within a few months I was doing like international keynotes for like IBM, Microsoft, Intel, like all over the planet. And then National Geographic caught wind of the shorts, and they were like, would you want to come host Brain Games? And so that kind of turned into a thing. And then Brain Games was the highest rated new series premiere in the history of National Geographic.
Well, congratulations.
So it's kind of awesome, right?
So what is your take on we always hear we use 6% of our brain.
Yeah.
And there's all this.
Sure. Well, you hear that a lot, and that's actually one of the first things that we learned. That's actually a myth. We do use all of our brains. The whole 10% myth, it's better to be understood as a metaphor. I think that what we should think of that is really, yes, we use all of our brain, but perhaps we don't use it well.
Well, I remember seeing this movie, What the Bleep. It's very interesting. We're sending these signals where our genes are actually telegraphing our body to have that, in fact, happen.
Completely. I mean, people talk about the power of intent and the power of expectation, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't. Either way, you're right, you know? Like, most people don't know that the smartphone that they have in their pocket is 1,000,000 times cheaper, 1,000,000 times smaller, and 1,000 times more powerful than a supercomputer that used to be half a building in size 40 years ago.
What do you anticipate for these kids that are really digital natives? These that under 10 years old, they're never going to know
a life outside
a world.
Of that. You know, from the moment that we picked up a stick from the floor and used that stick to reach a fruit on a really high tree, we've been using our tools to extend our reach. So I like that metaphor. But technology has always been a double-edged sword. I mean, the man that discovered fire to cook food was probably burned at the stake by his contemporaries. You know, people are like scared that their kids are playing video games all the time. It turns out the video games improve our problem-solving capacities. They engage our strategy and all these strategy faculties of the brain. So, you know, I'm an optimist. So I think that what we see with our kids is we have to make sure we don't become our parents. On the one hand, so we have to try to maintain an open mind. Also, the rate of change is getting faster, right? So it's not like they grew up on television. It's like, you know, maybe they grew up on Facebook, but now there's Twitter. And then they grew up on Twitter, and now there's Vine. And then they have Instagram, and now they have Instagram video. So the tools are changing all the time. So if anything, I think it's forcing people to be a lot more open to new amplifiers, because that's how I see these tools. They're amplifiers of our creativity.
My father was a physicist, and so he would always talk and jest because my mother was a very Catholic. But how can you explain the Big Bang? Maybe that was a god. Or maybe that, you know, we would always have these discussions. How do you feel about all of that?
Joseph Campbell used to say God is a metaphor for that which exceeds our intellectual capacity. You know, and I think that that's an interesting way of using that terminology. We're neurotic because we are strung out drunk almost on the awareness that we are mortal beings. You know, with our minds, we can ponder the infinite, yet we're housed in these heart-pumping, breath-gasping, decaying bodies. So we're godly and creaturely. And that imbues the human situation with this, like, tension, this creative tension. Like, do we just surrender in total despair? Do we kill ourselves? Or do we create religious narratives, which provide a way of transcending death, at least in terms of faith? Or for secular man, the romantic solution to the death problem, which is we deify our lovers.
Right.
We create icons that are larger than life. Our celebrities, in a way, are like gods. Our athletes are like gods. And then the last solution that Ernest Becker proposes is the creative solution to the problem of death. We defy death through the beautiful things we build, through empathy and connection with one another, creating tools that help us transcend our limits. Like when we fly through space, when we go to the moon and we put a flag there and we say one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, like that's how we defy death.
Right.
My greatest fear is non-existence, mortality, losing people I love, losing myself, losing control. What would I change about myself? I guess it would be nice to not be so dependent on sleep. I feel like if I don't get 7 hours a night, I can't function. It would be nice to be able to function better when I'm tired. And that's it. Thank you.